Pam Grout, a freelance writer, a travel columnist, an adventurer extraordinaire, has written many, many books, over 15 books. But today, we're going to focus this adventurer extraordinaire on Jumpstart Your Metabolism, how to lose weight by changing the way you breathe, burn calories more efficiently, increase your energy, reduce stress and anxiety. I'm delighted to bring Pam here today because I tried taking yoga and I couldn't get breathing properly through yoga, so maybe you can elucidate in some of these incredible cocktails you offer the public how to breathe properly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Pam Grout. Welcome to It's Rainmaking Time.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
The first thing I want to take care of is the fact that most of the way in which we breathe is not processed properly. Could you explain a little bit about respiration? First of all, why did you write this book?
Well, I had taken a breathing training and was just blown away by the powerful effects of what breathing can do. And after I'd had my daughter, I, like many people, had a few extra pounds to lose. And I decided, I read this book by Tony Robbins, or I heard a tape by Tony Robbins, I guess it was, and he talked about how he had lost weight using breathing. And I had studied breathing and had known a lot of people that had lost weight, but it wasn't, they didn't put two and two together. They didn't really realize, wow, this is why I lost weight. And then I started doing some research and finding out the reason I had done the breathing technique was a rebirthing process. It was a whole different thing. But in the process, all these people were losing weight, but again, they weren't trying to. And then here I lost this weight, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And so I started doing research, and it turns out it's really connected. And in fact, the reason when people go exercise and they lose weight, I mean, nobody really knows why do they lose weight, but they're actually putting all this extra oxygen in their body, and that helps them lose weight because it's like stoking a fire. You know, if you try to start a fire and it doesn't have any oxygen, it can't really burn. So our metabolism is very closely tied into how much oxygen it gets. In fact, metabolism just means how well does your body work. And when you have more oxygen, your body is able to work better.
I was very excited to hear that 70% of wastes are processed through the breath. Now, I would imagine that the average public, even very informed public person, thinks that most of the waste is not processed through the breath.
Well, you know, we don't even really think about waste that much because our bodies are such amazing machines. I mean, they just can do all this stuff. So we don't really have to think about it too much. It just kind of happens. But obviously we're taking in food, our body's processing, but there is a lot of waste. And because it does, but most of it comes out through our breath. And in fact, if we want to really have our bodies working properly, and if we are breathing properly, our bodies have less toxicity to have to deal with.
Is that
by
proven?
Breathing better, we actually help our body, do all the things that it has to do.
But is that actually a known fact? Is it an opinion or is it a scientific fact?
No, it is a scientific fact. But it is, I think most people don't know it. I mean, I think what happens is when things are just normal and natural, I mean, you don't have to think to breathe. I mean, your body, if you try to hold your breath, eventually your body will take over and take a deep breath. Remember when you're a little kid and you said, hey, Mom, I'm not going to breathe. And eventually, your body just takes over. And I think things like that just happen naturally and normally, we just take them for granted and we don't really think about them. I mean, it's like we don't have to think about them. So basically, I think most people just, take it for granted and they don't realize how important it is and how much power it has and who thinks about waste. I mean, we don't think about the waste that we, put out on our trash once, they come and pick it up, and we certainly don't think about the waste in our body. I mean, it's just not something people think about. We're so obsessed with what are we taking in. I mean, it's like, oh, let's count these calories, let's count these fat grams. I mean, we're thinking about all this kind of stuff, and nobody has bothered to mention, hey, how does the body process this stuff, and how can we make the body process it better? So it's this huge piece. It's like the important piece, and nobody bothered to bring it up, So it's like we're focusing on the wrong thing.
And we certainly hear a lot about, cleansing and taking colonics, but we don't hear about the day-to-day maintenance.
Right, that's true. There is now a little bit of, people are more interested in the colonics and that kind of thing. And that is, that's a good thing to do too. But here's something that you're doing every day. I mean, your body's doing this anyway every single day. So by learning to breathe better, you can actually improve how your body's working. So here's something that is so powerful, it's so natural, and we don't even think about it.
I noticed that in your book you say we breathe at 1/5 the capacity that's available. Can you explain that?
Of our lungs, yeah. I mean, most people take really wimpy breaths. They breathe into their chest. I mean, our lungs are capable of taking in this set amount of oxygen, and most of us take in, like I said, about 1/5 of what we're capable of taking in. And as I like to say, if you were getting 1/5 of the sleep you needed, or if you were getting 1/5 of the food you needed, you would not feel very good. So here we are, most of us are getting 1/5 of the oxygen that we're capable of taking in, and it's no wonder our bodies are sluggish and aren't working as well, and we don't have energy and all these things. In fact, there are many doctors that are really aware of breathing, and there's some that have. In fact, there's a doctor, I believe his last name is Hendler, and he says the first thing he prescribes, it doesn't matter what people come in for him for, the first thing he prescribes is taking deeper breaths. And of course, Andrew, was it Weil, that doctor? Yeah, he's really big on breathing too. And it's like before you try to fix anything else, first you need to fix your breathing and how you're breathing. And once you do that, then you can deal with some other things. But a lot of times, simple act of getting more oxygen, getting more fuel that makes your body work can solve a lot of other problems. What
actually is happening in breathing? I know you explained a part of it. It's like stoking a fire with oxygen, but you release carbon dioxide. Could you share with the listener what is actually happening when you're taking these deep breaths? I notice you have also 15 different cocktails or exercises people can do. Is it 15 minutes a day or?
Well, I don't even say a particular time frame. The eventual goal is to get to where every breath is deeper and fuller, but if you practice these, it gets you more in touch with your breath. So these are exercises people can do. And the one that I did, the very first one, the one I call the Baywatch bikini breath, that is the one that I did, and that I suddenly lost, 10 pounds. That made me start, this whole investigation, thinking, wow, that was really odd. How did this happen? And I started doing all the research. But what happens is, your body, has to process a lot of things, and it has carbon dioxide that has to come out. And the best way to get it out, or it comes out anyway through your breathing. But if you breathe better, and if you learn to breathe better, you can actually get rid of more of it easier than if you just kind of take these little wimpy breaths. In fact, the exhale is just as important as the inhale. I mean, you want to get lots of oxygen in. You want to, in the Baywatch bikini breath, you leave it in your body for a while so it can kind of cleanse it, and then you breathe it out. And you try to push every last bit of it out, for two reasons. One, it gets rid of that waste you're talking about, and secondly, it opens the capacity to take in the next breath deeper and fuller. So that's that's like the key, the cornerstone breath, around which all the rest of it revolves. But the other ones are good as well to get in touch with your breath and to, just be more in touch with what your body's needing and what your body can do.
One of the things I really loved about your book is that it takes something that appears to be esoteric, because we don't think about our breathing unless we have trouble breathing. It's kind of like it just goes on automatically, so therefore it's not in consciousness. There's no focus on it until you have a problem. Then there's, or a disease or some type of ailment. I thought it was interesting you said on page 79, as many as 700 billion cells are replaced each day with new ones. And the old cells are toxic and must be removed from the system. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, they say that, our body is completely different. It completely changes itself. And, Deepak Chopra talked about this. I can't remember how long it is, but, you have a new liver than you had, 5 months ago. And so your cells are constantly replenishing, constantly. In fact, there was a guy who won the Nobel Prize back in the 30s who, did an experiment with cells, and he said, really, there's no reason we even need to age. I mean, as far as cells completely replenish themselves, but we've done so many things to our body and partly even our beliefs and things, so we've gotten to where we're not, turning them over and we're replacing them like they were before when they actually could come back new and fresh and clean. So, there's a lot of interesting research and a lot we still have to learn about this.
You put a lot in context. You said also breathing and metabolism are inseparable, and oxygen is the key, will always be the key.